Sport.
Friday at 7 p.m, your weekend sports on Talk Radio Europe with the Friday Sports Bar.
I'm Dom Aldworth. This is the Friday Night Sports Bar, and it's coming to you live from the Talk Radio Europe studios. Thanks for tuning in wherever you might be, on the internet, on the Costas in Mallorca. Coming up over the next hour of sport. Big day in London tomorrow. The Emirates Stadium plays host to the London derby, Arsenal versus Spurs, in what's sure to be an emotionally charged encounter. The penultimate round of the Formula One Championship returns to the United States and the $400 million Circuit of Americas. The first time the US has staged a Formula One race since 2007. Sebastian Vettel and Fernando Alonso will go head-to-head. It's going to be uncharted territory. And rugby fans, another big week of autumn international rugby and a very big day for England at Twickenham as they play against the old enemy, Australia. All that and plenty more to come up over the next hour, so stay tuned to Talk Radio Europe with me, Dom Aldworth.
Friday Sports Bar with Dom Aldworth.
Once again, good evening and welcome to the Friday Night Sports Bar on Talk Radio Europe. Unfortunately, I'm on my lonesome this evening. My two partners in crime, Stuart Joseph and Richard Tilsley, were unable to make it. But the reason why Stuart's not here, and many congratulations to him and his lovely wife, Jackie, and to his daughter as well. Stu has become, and Jackie have become very proud grandparents of two twins. I know Stu's, I think, on his way back from the airport as we speak, but many congratulations to you and to your family. And with regards to Richard Tilsley, why Rich is not in this evening, I think it had something to do with the fact that he decided to spend a little bit of time with his punch bag. I don't know if you tune in every week. Apparently he draws a face of somebody he doesn't like particularly well on his punch bag, and he goes and has a bit of a session there. So unfortunately, no Richard this evening with us, but thank you very much for you to tuning in on the airways and joining me for this hour of sport. We're going to get things going as we usually do with a little bit of football chat. We're going to have a look at the international fixtures that took place, international friendlies, pointless international friendlies actually, during the course of the week. Have a look at some of the league fixtures from around Serie A, La Liga, Bundesliga and the Premiership, and have a look ahead towards that big fixture tomorrow between Arsenal and Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. But for those England fans that tuned in on Wednesday night in Sweden, what a show it was by Ibrahimovic. He's been top form for Paris Saint-Germain so far this season, his new club, with 10 goals there, and boy was he on fire against England in the second half. Certainly he definitely pulled the strings there with 4 goals to come from behind Sweden to defeat England, and it was very much a one-man show in that second half, and certainly that 4th goal of his was something a little bit special, and certainly for me, and I think a lot of the players as well that were playing that described it as one of the greatest live goals that they've ever seen. But tremendous performance there from some of the youngsters in the England setup. There was 6 new caps there making their senior debuts. Danny Welbeck getting on the score sheet there. Kolka as well getting on the score sheet. But of course, all the headlines belong to Ibrahimovic in the 4-2 victory. But it very much a pointless friendly. I think most of these were. If you have a look at the Spanish fixture, I mean, they had to travel all the way to Panama City for a friendly, which I don't quite understand with some big La Liga fixtures taking place. They came away with a result as expected, 5-1. Pedro there scoring twice for the European and world champions. David Villa also getting on the score sheet there. Sergio Ramos also on the score sheet there. Good stuff there from the defender. France came from behind to defeat Italy. Again, lots of new blood playing in both sides. The French are certainly producing a far better side than they have in recent times. So good stuff for the French there away in Italy. Lionel Messi was going for a goal-scoring record for Argentina against Saudi Arabia. You would have expected the floodgates to open there with the quality that they have up front in Higuain and, of course, Messi himself. Messi was going for the goal-scoring record for the most goals in a calendar year in an Argentinian shirt. And bearing in mind, he's now only 3 goals shy of Diego Maradona, who sits on 34 international goals for Argentina. Lionel Messi sitting on 31. Unfortunately, he was unable to add to that tally on Wednesday night, as unbelievably so, the Saudi Arabians managed to hold them to a 0-0 draw, which was the same scoreline between Germany and neighbours Holland. Pretty dull game there. Lots of injuries inflicting both sides there for that particular fixture. A very highly rated Belgium got a reality check when they lost 2-1 in a friendly against Romania, while Poland Poland were beaten by 3-1 at home to Uruguay. Luis Suarez getting on the score sheet, and Cavani, who I know Chelsea have got their eye on from Napoli. In fact, most top clubs have got their eye on this fella. Also getting on the score sheet there for Uruguay. So I'm not too sure what you made of that performance midweek by England. I certainly know what I made about Ibrahimovic's performance, but more importantly, let's hear from Roy Hodgson, the England coach, as to what he thought about his team's performance.
Roy, for 78 minutes, it was pretty much going according to plan, wasn't
it? Yeah. Then someone called Zlatan Ibrahimovic decided to step into the picture. He was only supposed to play for the first half, I've just heard, so it would have been better for us had he done so. And of course, if we'd have really wanted to win the game, it would have been better had I not taken the opportunity to take the remaining senior players off the field and give even more debutants a chance. But I've got to say, I think that it was a very good performance for very long periods of the game, and it's disappointing to lose it, especially after such a good 2012 when we haven't really lost that many games. But if we're going to lose a game, then it's probably better to do it with the team we had today, with so many players getting experience, so many players feeling their way, if you like, into the national team. And for me and my coaching staff, we learnt an awful lot today about a lot of players, and a lot of the things we learnt I thought were very positive.
Who were the big pluses for you then tonight, Roy?
Well, I thought both centre-backs did well, Cahill and Corker. I thought they did very well for us. Obviously, we know Glenn and Leighton Baines, they were their usual very, very good selves. I thought Leon Osman actually was surprisingly good. Danny Welbeck was excellent centre-forward. I moved him, of course, in the second half to give Daniel Sturridge a chance to play centre-forward, but it was nice to see Danny playing so well there. It was good to see Jack Wilshere back in an England shirt for a 25 to 30 minute spell, looking very assured. And probably the biggest plus for me of all, I thought, was to see Steven Gerrard in such magnificent form, dominating the game, playing his 100th game for the country. And I'm pretty sure that, with the players we have at home, the players who will be coming back into the reckoning, we're looking forward to quite a bright 2013 because we're going to have a strong squad. You must remember this was Sweden's best team. This was the team that drew 4-4 with Western Germany with Germany. And I thought for long periods today, we didn't just match them. I thought we had the better of the game for very long periods. But it was I suppose a masterclass in effectiveness because they scored with the first real chance, and then towards the end they took three chances from 3 occasions.
Players wouldn't use it as an excuse, but what did they make of the playing surface out there, right?
I thought Joe was a bit unlucky with the fourth goal. I know that doesn't make so much of a difference, and perhaps for the spectacle and for the 50,000 people here and the millions watching on TV, perhaps I shouldn't begrudge Zlatan Ibrahimovic that fantastic goal, because it really was a masterwork, really, a work of art. But I think Joe was unlucky because the ball actually did pitch up and he got caught underneath it, which means he didn't get the purchase on his header, which under normal circumstances, it wasn't a dangerous situation. But I'm a little bit disappointed with the second and third goals, of course, because they were stoppable. But on the other hand, I've got to look at the broader picture. I've got to look at what we did during the 90 minutes. I've got to look at how many debutants got their opportunity today, and I've got to be quite optimistic, really, because I saw some very good performances out there which give me great heart for the future.
Well, I was going to say the likes of Raheem Sterling and Wilfred Zaha, I mean, tantalising glimpses into the future with them, isn't it?
Absolutely. No, we're moving in the right direction, there's no question that. I thought the quality of our passing and our movement at times was really very, very good, and to come here, we're in front of 50,000 people. It's set up, if you like, for a walk in the park for Sweden, and it certainly wasn't that. And I'd even go as far as to say that had Zlatan not played in the game, we would have won it, even with all the substitutions and even with the odd mistake here and there.
One last thought, Montenegro have won tonight to go top of the World Cup qualifying group. I mean, I guess that's a sobering reminder that in the new year there's some tough qualifiers ahead.
Absolutely, and the reason we wanted to do what we did today was to give ourselves a better idea going into those qualifiers, what players we can count on and what players will be the ones that will help us get there. But we expected Montenegro to win that game tonight, so it's not important, quite frankly, who's top and who's second at this stage of the qualifier. It's very important, when we come to the end of October next year, who's number 1 and number 2, and we've got 6 matches to play. And at the moment, a game like this one, if anything, gives me cause, I believe, for optimism rather than pessimism.
Well, that was England coach Roy Hodgson following England's defeat at the hands of Sweden, or should I say England's defeat at the hands of Ibrahimovic. More poignantly, though, Steven Gerrard, many congratulations for his 100th cap. A very good performance there in the holding midfield role by Steven Gerrard. Something slightly different to what he's been doing for England at international level in recent times, or certainly the first part of his career. Perhaps that is a position that he could fulfill leading into the World Cup qualifiers, the continuation of the World Cup qualifiers. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. And when we come back, a little bit more football, just cast our eye over what's happening in the European leagues and a quick look ahead to the big London derby taking place tomorrow. We'll see you the other side of these messages.
It's the Friday Sports Bar with Dom Aldworth on Talk Radio Europe.
Welcome back to the Friday Night Sports Bar. Let's just cast our eye over some of the European football leagues, Serie A, Bundesliga, La Liga, and the Premiership as well, with tomorrow's big London derby. We'll begin with in the Italian league for Serie A on. Juventus are 4 points clear following their victory, following Inter Milan's loss last week and their win, thrashing at Pescara by 6-1. Juventus take on Lazio in Turin this weekend. Lazio notoriously bad travellers this season, unfortunately. Really good opportunity now for Juventus to put some daylight between them and Inter Milan. Lazio, unfortunately, have amassed only 9 points from a possible 22 on their travel so far this season. And adding to that, this statistic doesn't bode well for them either. In 68 games in Turin, Lazio have only lost 8 and drawn 17. So, judging by those statistics, I think Lazio are definitely up against it this weekend. A good opportunity for Juventus to continue some pretty good form since 2 weeks ago when they suffered their first loss in 49 league games to Inter Milan. Napoli are in action against AC Milan, who continue to struggle with a loss on the weekend. Rumour has it today that the owner of the club, Berlusconi, actually flew into the training ground today just to wish all of his players well. So Berlusconi obviously showing some concern there. It makes one wonder how long Allegri, the manager, will be remaining in charge. They're up against a Napoli side that's also being shown some good form of late. Their striker Cavani scoring midweek for Uruguay and starting to find his form again. AC Milan could suffer yet another defeat this weekend at the hands of Napoli. This is their worst start to a season in over 80 years. It was a gutsy performance by Napoli last weekend. They won when they won 4-2 against Genoa, so they're coming in with some very good confidence levels. AC Milan forward Steven El-Shaarawy, he's been in good form, so it'll be very much between El-Shaarawy and, of course, Cavani as to who can get on the scoring charts and get the 3 points, the much-needed 3 points. Certainly from Napoli's point of view, they are still chasing for the Serie A title and right up there in the league. And those two players as well are the leading goal scorers in Serie A so far this weekend, this season. Inter Milan are expected to collect 3 points on Sunday when they struggle to travel to Cagliari on Sunday. Again, a much-needed 3 points for Inter Milan if they want to keep the heat on Juventus at the top of the table. We're going to move to La Liga now, and it's the big Sevilla derby this weekend. Real Betis travel across town to take on neighbours Sevilla on Sunday for the derby. It's of huge importance for the local people up there, and of course major significance as well with regards to their respective league positions and their chases for European places. Betis currently lie 4th in La Liga, 19 points from 11 games, and 4 behind champions Real Madrid, who sit in 3rd, and 12 behind the leaders Barcelona. Athletic Madrid are in 2nd place on 28 points. They travel and take on lowly Granada. Atletico Madrid getting back to winning ways last weekend. And Barcelona, who remain top of the table at this stage, undefeated as well. They're at home to Real Zaragoza. And Villanova will be delighted to know that Carlos Puyol and Piqué will be returning in the centre of defence for Barcelona. They've had some severe injury concerns over the last month and a half or so, leaking far more goals than what we're used to seeing from Barcelona in the past. Real Madrid looking to close that gap as well, but the problem they have, every time they win, Barcelona seem to do the same. They remain 7 points behind, 8 points behind, I think it is, and they host struggling Bilbao this weekend. News there from the team is that Benzema is expected to return. Unfortunately, Malaga fans, not great news last weekend. A bit of a European Champions League hangover in a 2-1 defeat. Excuse me. They are back in action again this weekend, and that's on Saturday tomorrow, and they face Osasuna away from home. So we certainly hope that a victory there for Malaga will see them climb back up the table again. Malaga currently sitting in 5th place on 18 points. So a little bit of a European hangover in recent times there for Malaga. And we'll just now move very briefly onto the Bundesliga. If there's any German football fans out there, Bayern Munich are looking to make it 11 wins from 12 when they travel to Nuremberg in the big Bavarian derby. The hosts have won, the Nuremberg have actually only won one in their last 8 fixtures. So certainly Bayern Munich, considering their form at present and the lack of form, so to speak, of Nuremberg, it looks like 3 points in the bag for Bayern Munich. Schalke in 2nd place on 23 points will be looking to beat hosts Bayer Leverkusen, who sit in 5th place, while Borussia Dortmund, the defending champions, host the relegation threatened Greuther Fürth on Sunday as well. So big action there taking place in the Bundesliga. And now a little bit of Premiership. We're going to have a look forward to, how about a bit of a reminder where we are in the Premiership following last week's fixtures. Chelsea and Liverpool played out a 1-goal apiece draw. John Terry on the score sheet there for Chelsea and Luis Suarez. Manchester City came out on top against Tottenham Hotspur. Having to come from behind, I might add. Edin Dzeko there getting on the score sheet with a winner in the 87th minute. Arsenal and Fulham played out a 3-3 draw. Giroud getting on the score sheet again on 2 occasions with a brace of goals there. Lucas Podolski as well, 2 new signings. And Dimitar Berbatov, former Manchester United frontman, getting on the brace of goals himself there for Fulham. Everton continued their good form with a 2-1 victory over Sunderland. Manchester United, if it wasn't for Javi Hernandez again for the 2nd consecutive time, getting them out of trouble in a 3-2 victory against relegation, hovering around the relegation at this present Aston Villa are. Manchester United eventually winning that match by 3-2. Those are just some of the big names in the Premier League and what happened last weekend. Just cast our eye over the table very quickly coming into this weekend's round of fixtures. Manchester United 2 points clear of Manchester City at the top of the table on 27. Chelsea currently sit in 3rd, having dropped points on the weekend with 24. Everton enjoying a very successful season so far on 20 points. West Brom also on 20 points. West Ham on 18. Tottenham Hotspur on 17. And Arsenal on 16 points there. And while we're talking about those two sides, both of them looking to get back into 4th place and in a Champions League spot when they take on each other tomorrow in the big London derby at the Emirates Stadium. And let's hear from former Spurs player and former Liverpool player and former England man, Jamie Redknapp, on what he thinks will happen tomorrow in the big London derby.
Welcome to a preview of Arsenal against Tottenham for Sky Sports, sponsored by Sky Bet. Very pleased to say former Tottenham midfielder Jamie Redknapp, Sky Sports analyst, of course, here with us. Jamie, good to see you once again. Now, putting bragging rights to one side, it's 8th against 7th. How important to both sides, given that there's just a point between them the last season in the final shake-up?
Well, it is. And I think if you're realistic, Ed, I think you have to accept that Manchester United, Manchester City and Chelsea are probably the standout teams in the Premier League. Yeah. Apart from that, other teams are sort of going for that 4th place. No disrespect to sort of West Brom, West Ham. I feel that it's great. They've had a brilliant start to the season, but I feel they will probably falter at some stage. And so far, a great job. Everton, I feel, are in the mix for maybe 4th place. But you could just see really it being a shootout between Arsenal and Tottenham for 4th. That's how I see it.
Both sides in a bit of patchy form. Where would your money be at the moment? Sort of Sky Bet going with, I guess, the history, 15 straight seasons of Champions League football for Arsenal. They're 5-6 to finish in the top 4. Spurs 9-4 with Sky Bet. How do you assess the team's chances?
When I was a player for Tottenham, there was a huge gulf between the two teams. I mean, they were the Invincibles at the time, and they were a wonderful football side that was so not only could attack, could defend, could have a war if you wanted. They could do everything. But I think if you look at this Arsenal team, it's probably the weakest that I've seen, certainly in the Premier League years. And on the other hand, Tottenham have come up now, and I actually feel that it's very difficult to split them. I think there's quality in areas of both sides, and then there's also weaknesses in both sides, and that's why I feel it's such an evenly contested game. If you were to put me on the spot, which obviously you will, I'm pretty sure when it's because of the tightness of the game, both managers won't want to lose. I think Villas-Boas is genuinely, I think, can you see why they lose so many goals, a negative type of manager, and I feel that that's why probably this will be a draw, and that's how I see it anyway.
Well, Arsenal won the fixture 5-2 last season, Tottenham 2-0 out the season before. I think it was the other way around. Arsenal were 2 up and Spurs came out to win. They've only won 1 at the Gunners in the league since 1993. Big favourites 10-11, Tottenham 11-4 in the draw, which you should say you tipped up correctly. Liverpool won against Chelsea, Liverpool 1 or draw last week. You nailed that one. And the draw 13-5 with Sky Bet. It's not too bad.
No, I just think because the sides are so evenly matched and it means so much to them. I think both sides will score. I think that's a nap, although the price reflects that as well. I don't think either team defensively are doing a good job. I actually quite like Spurs from it. I think if you looked at Corker, scored at Manchester City last week, scored again for England in midweek, and he attacks the ball very well and have good delivery. If it's Huddleston that plays, he puts the ball into good areas, so that might be worth looking at. Someone like Corker for first goal. Arsenal, Giroud is no Van Persie, but
4-4 now.
He's improving. I'll give him that. He's no Van Persie, and he's good in the air. These are the sort of games you score in a derby game. Yeah, you can become a bit of a legend at that football club. He'll be looking at that. I'm sure tonight he'll be going through it in his mind. What can I do? How can I escape the Tottenham defenders? Knowing the impact that he could make, it could completely change his Arsenal career around. And after the game, we could be talking about Oliver Giroud as a Arsenal legend rather than somebody who's just trying to fill Van Persie's boots.
Player who left Arsenal before becoming a legend really was Emmanuel Adebayor, moved to Man City. Now at Tottenham, I think he's scored more North London derby goals than almost anyone else. Only Jimmy Robertson with more. He scored for both sides of them. Do you think he starts again like last week? Jermaine Defoe scoring bags full of goals, but dropped against Man City. How do you see Tottenham lining up?
Well, it was a shock that he left out Jermaine Defoe last week. It was a surprise for everybody, and to be fair, people say, well, your dad left out Jermaine Defoe a lot, but the difference was with Jermaine Defoe, he's in the form of his life. He scored a hat-trick in midweek. I think he was there.
Something about playing that lone role a little bit more than people expected.
He's done a lot better, Eddie. You're right. He has. He's done really well, and I didn't expect he would. Because I played with Jermaine I played alongside Jermaine at Tottenham, and I always felt that he was the sort of player that was, he'd be happy just to put the ball in the net. He didn't want to get involved in the link play, but he really has worked hard in his game. I think he sees people like Messi and that doing it now, and he knows that role is so important for the team. Gareth Bale, I think, is an obvious candidate for first goal scorer. But Sanya normally does well against Gareth Bale. As a match-up, that's pretty good, that one. Yeah. So, I mean, they'll be hoping that Sanya can do a good job on Gareth Bale from Arsenal's point of view. But that's what I'll be looking at as well. But I could see over goals. I could see 2-2.
Well, I think the last 7 meetings have yielded at least 3 goals. Yeah. At least 3 goals, often a lot more than that. So I suppose you could go big.
Yeah, 8-13, I think, over 2.5 goals I saw. That, which is, reflects that as well. And, 2-1 at White Hart Lane last year with Kyle Walker getting the winning goal, and then the 5-2 transformation at half-time from Arsenal's point of view. So they are good games, really good to play in. And you get the feeling that this is a really big one. Yeah. Because Arsenal know they can't afford to lose this, because they'll be losing ground. That will give Tottenham a lot of belief as well. They play great at Manchester United for 45 minutes, but they're yet to produce 90 minutes of football. And when I looked at them, I thought, yeah, that looks like a real team. They're doing it in fits and starts, and this might be the sort of game that could also turn around Tottenham's season.
Well, so 1 win in 4 for both sides. You expect that run to go 1 win in 4 for both, or 1 win in 5, sorry, for both sides. You expect this to end in a draw? Your top tips, your predictions?
Yeah, I do. I fancy the 2-2 draw. Yeah. Gareth Bale any time. Oliver Giroud first goal for Arsenal, and a load of goals. I just don't think either team defensively are confident enough to keep clean sheets. It's not, and it's not something they've been able to do this week and work on it. Arsene Wenger's not having his team to work because they've all been away on international. So I can see a really exciting game, plenty of goals, and as I say, 2-2 draw.
Great stuff, Jamie. Well, great to have you here as ever. We'll catch up with you again soon. This one live, and Jamie will be there at the Emirates. Sky Sports 2 HD and in Sky 3D from midday Saturday. 12-1 for a 2-all draw. We see goals for all the big match markets. As ever, remember, head to skybet.com. We'll be back again soon. In the meantime, goodbye for now.
Well, that was Jamie Redknapp on the big London derby tomorrow from the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal versus Tottenham Hotspur. That isn't the only game going on in the Premiership, of course, this coming weekend. We'll just have a look at some of the other important fixtures. Manchester United Mexican super sub Javier Hernandez. He's set to make a rare start when the Premier League leaders face Norwich City at Carrow Road tomorrow. Hernandez has been in a rich vein of form with 7 goals in his last 5 appearances in all competitions, including 2 as a half-time half-time sub, as already mentioned, against Aston Villa last weekend, saving United's blushes there and giving them 3 points, keeping them top of the table. Wayne Rooney, unfortunately, will not be starting tomorrow due to an ankle injury. Hernandez will be partnering Van Persie up front. Manchester City will be hoping that Joe Hart has a slightly better game to what he had midweek for England against Sweden and letting in 4 goals. He will. They'll be at home, Manchester City, this weekend to Aston Villa. Aston Villa obviously had a very good performance last week against Manchester United. European champions, a point further back in 3rd place. They travel to a surprise package of the season, West Brom, who in a very impressive position of 5th in the table. Who would have thought that at this stage of the season? There's some very important fixtures down the bottom of the table as well this weekend, and QPR, who remain without a win this season. One must wonder how long Mark Hughes can remain at the helm of QPR. People in the Premiership, certainly managers in the Premiership, have been sacked for less than that. QPR winless this season take on Southampton, who've managed to get themselves 1 win at least this season. So a massive fixture for those two clubs. A real 6-pointer, which will hopefully help their cause to remain in the Premier League, although the season has plenty to go, but a massive fixture there. Everton, who've been in unbelievable form so far this season, they look to maintain their heights when they host struggling Reading in Everton at Goodison Park. Liverpool will look to Luis Suarez, who's been in good form himself in recent times, yielding 11 goals in the last 8 Premiership matches. Or beg your pardon, 8 in the last 11 Premier League matches that he's been involved in. They host Wigan this weekend, and on Sunday, Fulham and Dimitar Berbatov hopes to remain on the goal-scoring charts for Fulham when they host West Ham West Ham host Stoke on Monday, that is, and Fulham will be in action as well on Sunday. What we're going to do now, we're going to go to a commercial break. There's plenty of other sport I need to get through. As usual, very short a time, so we'll see you the other side of these commercial messages.
Tomato dribbles it past mozzarella and loses it to Beefy. Beefy runs with it, goes on the counter-attack of Beefy, and Beefy scores and the crowd goes wild.
It's the Friday Sports Bar on Talk Radio Europe with Dom Aldworth.
Welcome back to the Friday Night Sports Bar. Let's talk a little bit of motorsport news. Unfortunately, MotoGP fans, the season has come to an end last weekend in Valencia, and it was Spaniard on a Honda, Dani Pedrosa, who signed off in front of his home fans with his 7th race win of the season. Pretty successful season for Dani Pedrosa. Very unlucky in Australia at Phillip Island when unfortunately he crashed out of the race, and that delivered Jorge Lorenzo his 2nd World Championship. Lorenzo was also denied the opportunity of a race win when he crashed out in the final race of the season in Valencia himself. A bit of a procession it was meant to be for the double world champion in front of his home fans, and also for Casey Stoner as well, who shocked the world of motorsport by announcing his retirement earlier in the season. Casey Stoner made up the podium, coming home in 3rd place. And superb stuff there from Casey Stoner, double world champion. He no longer takes part in the sport of MotoGP. Incidentally enough, he's yet to actually reveal all the reasons as to why he made that decision not to come. But it's been a great pleasure. I had the pleasure of Casey's company on the Friday Night Sports Bar last year. So tremendous stuff there. Great career from Casey Stoner. At the age of 27, he can now go and enjoy a little bit of time with his young family. Apparently he likes fishing, so he might be doing quite a bit of that. From 2 wheels to 4 wheels, the Formula 1 season has not quite finished yet. In fact, it really is reaching its climax this weekend. For the first time since 2007, the Formula 1 Championship returns to the United States and to the $400 million Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. It's round 19 of the Formula 1 Championship. There's only 10 points separating Sebastian Vettel and Fernando Alonso. Vettel holding the initiative there at the moment. It will be Sebastian Vettel's 100th race this in his career. As mentioned, he leads the championship by 2 points. Both Fernando Alonso and Sebastian Vettel are going for their 3rd World Championships. Formula 1 is, as we all know, it's going to be very uncharted territory because the drivers would not have, in fact, I think maybe as we speak, they could be out on their first free practice going around the circuit for the first time. Most of them would have already driven it in a simulator, not quite the same as being on the circuit itself. We're going to tell you a little bit about that circuit and where it's been built in Austin, Texas, pretty much in the sort of territory you'd be more familiar with John Wayne and NASCAR, certainly, and not the glitz and glamour of Formula One as we well know it. The 5.15 kilometers Circuit of the Americas is another design by the great German Hermann Tilke. This man is responsible for most of the modern circuits now on the Formula One calendar, the likes of Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, Buddha International, Marina Bay in Singapore, and many more actually that feature on the Formula One calendar. What they've done in this particular design is they've taken corners from some of the most famous circuits throughout Europe and actually incorporated them all into one. And just to give you a little idea of the layout, there are more corners of speeds of above 250 kilometers than there is at Spa in Belgium, and there are more corners of less than 100 kilometers per hour as there are in Hungary. Now that to me, two great straights as well, but that to me certainly suggests it's going to take its toll on the drivers over a period of time and certainly test their skill and their endurance. And the one thing as well, which I think will make the race exceptionally exciting, is the start. They've got a nice long starting straight going up the hill, which turns into a very sharp left hairpin. I think that very much could be where the race is won or lost. Only time will tell. Looking forward very much to that one. The stage is very much set there before Fernando Alonso and Sebastian Vettel to duel it out. We certainly hope it goes down to the final race in Brazil, which is next weekend. But just going back to Formula One, I mean, it's something that Bernie Ecclestone has wanted to win over the American fans for many, many years now. And, of course, the likes of NFL football, which are currently taking place, the NBA season. From a motorsport point of view, it's always been NASCAR, IndyCar as well, which have dominated the headlines or certainly stolen the attention of the fans. And this is a great opportunity now over the period of the next 10 years for the F1 brand to really establish themselves in Austin, in Texas. And here comes a report from a man on the ground in Austin, Texas, just getting a reaction of what some of the locals think about F1 coming to their city.
If the Austin Grand Prix has put the US back on the F1 map, can it succeed where 9 previous venues have failed and give the sport genuine stateside profile? It should at least raise the cities. 70% of fans attending are from outside Texas, with 18% from overseas. Despite that, there's been controversy over state funding and a degree of ambivalence in the local media. One local journalist described F1 as a form of motor racing, where handsome, rich dudes from foreign countries drive goofy-looking cars around the track. But is that the general viewpoint? Places like this can prove revealing. Despite this bar's 21 plasmas, there's no guarantee they'll show Sunday's race.
We know that the championship could possibly come down to the race in Austin. And we know that the construction of this track, even though somewhat controversial here with the amount of money that was invested by the state and local into the construction, but also that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to have Formula One.
I think that people are going to be a little standoffish for Formula One, and this first round is going to be a good test to see what really Austin is made of and whether it's going to work out or not.
What would you say Americans know about F1?
F1? What is that?
Across town, however, there is evidence of an F1 culture. This new indoor kart track expects its busiest week of the year. Amongst the petrol-head parents, Ken Scheuer, who's paid a 5-figure sum to reserve seats at Austin for the next 10 years.
There's a very loyal following, but a small following compared to NASCAR. But I think, you know, this could be a turning point. We could start to see a lot more interest in.
This city has a big appetite for sport. Without its own professional franchise, its college football team still had 101,000 crowd last month. All 3 days at the circuit are 120,000 sellouts. Craig Slater, Sky Sports, Austin.
Well, that's the round 19 of the Formula One World Championship coming from the Circuit of the Americas for the very first time. As mentioned, I think free practice could very well be going on as we speak. Sebastian Vettel and Fernando Alonso gunning for their 3rd World Championships each on each side. Vettel obviously has the initiative, as already mentioned, with a 10-point lead. Uncharted territory this weekend at the Circuit of Americas. First time they would have taken to the circuit this race. It'd be very interesting to see how those tyres perform as well Pirelli aren't quite sure what sort of performance the tyres will actually bring to each team. But that's the Formula 1 World Championship round 19. Brazil next weekend with the final race of the season. Hopefully we won't have a championship decider. Sebastian Vettel has an opportunity to win it this weekend. We certainly hope it goes down to the wire this weekend. Let's talk a little bit about international rugby. It's been a very big month of international rugby. The autumn internationals, the might of the Southern Hemisphere, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Samoa, Argentina, all in the Northern Hemisphere to take on the home nations, Italy and France as well. That began last weekend, and we'll just have a quick roundup of some of those results before we look ahead to the fixtures that are going to be taking place tonight, tomorrow and Sunday. Frederic Michalak, who was back at fly half, number 10 at the age of 30 for France, having been playing his rugby in South Africa for the last couple of years. He inspired the Blues to a 33 points to 6 over Australia. Stunning result there for the French, certainly in a rebuilding period at the moment under Philippe Saint-André. That ended a 5-match losing streak against the Wallabies as well. Michalak hadn't actually played on home soil since the Six Nations game against Ireland in 2010 and was replaced with a standing ovation from the French crowd because of his performance. So another positive performance there from Michalak will be much needed tomorrow when they take on the Argentinians. Let's talk about that Argentinian side featuring for the very first time in the Rugby Championship earlier against Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, doing particularly well, and they did even better against Wales on the weekend at the Millennium Stadium, coming from behind to win by 26 points to 12, inflicting the first defeat on the Six Nations champions at home this season. A tremendous result there for Argentina. England launched their autumn series with a very commanding 54 points to 12 win against a very poor Fijian side. I might add a different kettle of fish this weekend for England, but a much more positive performance in the second half, coming out on top by 7 tries to 2, 25-0 up at half-time, but as I stressed, it was an exceptionally weak Fijian side. Italy warmed up for their first 2 rugby heavyweight clashes coming up in the coming weeks with a very unconvincing win, I might add, against Tonga, 28 points to 23, and South Africa had to come from behind at the Aviva Stadium, but to eventually win by 16 points to 12, and the All Blacks were at their very, very best on Sunday at Murrayfield. Daniel Carter, certainly the greatest number 10 I've ever seen, probably one of the greatest ever in the history of the game, really controlling and marshalling things from that very important position of fly half. New Zealand coming out on top, the world champions, by 54, 5 points to 22. Daniel Carter himself contributing there with 21 points. And then the action continues this weekend. A very big game in store for England. England welcome the old enemy to Twickenham. Australia, we remember 2 years ago that tremendous try from Chris Ashton, running pretty much the length of the field. He's back in the setup this weekend. He replaces Hugo Monnier. Just have a quick look at that 15, which will start for England tomorrow. Alex Good, the Saracens fullback, at fullback. A very good game, debut game last week for Alex Good. Chris Ashton on the wing there. Tulagi and Bradley Barrett make up that very strong centre pairing. Charlie Sharples moves across. It retains his place from it following a very good performance by himself last weekend. Toby Floydis remains at number 10. Danny Cares at number 9. Thomas Waldron at 8th man. Chris Robshaw captains the team from number 7. Tom Johnson, Jeff Parling, Tom Palmer, Dan Cole, Tom Youngs and Joe Marley. That is your starting 15. Owen Farrell, Mike Brown on the bench. Tom Wood on the bench. Ben Youngs on the bench. David Pace on the bench. A much more solid looking England lineup for me. And Australia, Barrick Barnes, Digby Oni, Adam Ashley Cooper, Ben Tapau, Nick Cummins, Curtly Beale, normally playing his rugby at 15, slots in at number 10 in the injury absence of their normal number 10. Nick Phipps, Wycliffe Parlu, Michael Hooper, Dave Dennis, Nathan Sharp, Timani, Alexander, Now and Robinson. Several very experienced players actually missing there from the England setup. Other matches to look forward to, rugby fans, tomorrow you got Scotland, who welcomes South Africa to Murrayfield. We won't forget that stunning result by the Scots defeating the Springboks in Murrayfield in torrential rain last year. The French are in action again against Argentina. That's a very interesting prospect for me. I think the Argentinian pack will definitely give the French a bit of a hard time there, but I expect the French to eventually come out on top on that one. Italy, unfortunately, this is probably the biggest mismatch of the week. They take on a second-string New Zealand side, which I think will still have far too much depth for Italy. Expect at least 50 points in that. And Wales will be looking to recover from their horrendous loss last week when they face Samoa in what should be a very physical encounter. Heads have rolled from the Welsh 15 that started last week, and former captain Sam Warburton is dropped. He starts off the bench. Also, Reece Priestland, the fly-half, he's been replaced by Dan Bigger. Jamie Roberts is fit to play in centre with Lee Halfpenny. Ryan Jones is back into the squad following injury. He captains the team for a record 29th time as well. And then one last fixture as well. Ireland take on Fiji. Many replacements there for Ireland, just giving some of the youngsters a little bit of a run out there. And we're going to hear very briefly from Stuart Lancaster, the England coach, as to what his thoughts are on the welcome return to England setup of Chris Ashton.
The one change, Stuart. What do you hope to get from Chris Ashton now on his return to the team?
Well, hopefully delivering what Chris Ashton delivers, and you know, he forever chases the ball and looks for line breaks and creates opportunities for others, and obviously he takes opportunities himself. You know, we want our best players on the field. We feel he's one of our best players.
So Ashton returns at right wing. Charlie Sharples, who scored 2 excellent tries, of course, in the match, switching to left, but Hugo Monnier misses out. Just how difficult was that, and the switch as well?
Yeah, it was difficult, and you know, Hugo's been great since he came back into the squad and trained really well and played well at the weekend. But Charlie's form has been exceptional, really, and he followed that form up in training into the game, and we're really pleased with his performance and feel he merits to keep his place in the side. He's happy playing on the left, so you know, moving him to the left gives Chris a chance on the right.
And another man who has been performing very well, high in confidence too, you would of course imagine. Alex Good drawn a lot of praise for his performance in this game last week. What did you make of him?
Yeah, no, I think he delivered what we hoped, really. You know, he's a great footballer. He provides an extra organisation in our back line, so helps Toby out in that regard. And he's a great communicator from the back, so in terms of defence and security under the high ball, and also his ability to manipulate and move defenders around and make breaks himself. He took that club form from Saracens on the international stage, and now it's a step up for him. But you know, he's playing really well at the moment.
It definitely wasn't a team of individuals, that's for sure. It was a wonderful team performance. You have picked the same back row again, Tom Wood, Ben Morgan chomping at the bit on the sidelines. Do you see this as your first choice front row, or is there still work in progress in those areas?
Yeah, no, I think we'll always be work in progress in every area. You know, we've got players coming back in the equation. Courtney Lawes is coming back this weekend. We've got Alex Cobacero playing again this weekend. Jonathan Joseph, Dylan Hartley hopefully back soon, Ben Foden back soon. So selection will always be a moving feast, but you know, when you've got the shirt, you want to keep hold of it. And you know, the back row played well at the weekend. Tom Wood was good when he came off the bench, and we want to give them another shot this week and get some continuity and consistency built in this group.
Many are expecting a step up this week against the Australians. Are you concerned, though, over a bit of a backlash from their defeat in Paris last week?
Yeah, I think we need to step up, and I think everyone recognises that training's been reflected that way. You know, the intensity and the accuracy in training has stepped up, and we're fully aware of the reaction the Australians will bring. I'm sure they'll be disappointed. They'll have done a lot of work on their own performance, and towards the end of the week they'll have taken a look at us. But I imagine it's about them and bouncing back from that France defeat. But you know, the game before then they pushed the All Blacks to 18-all. So. I think they've got 750-odd caps in their match day 22, so they're a very experienced side and have played some very good rugby over the last 6 months.
And what are your expectations from these 3 games?
Well, our expectations is, you know, we want to set out and win them all. That's the plan. But you know, equally it doesn't follow, you know, that wanting to win is one thing, but actually getting this nuts and bolts in place that give you the win are 2 different things. And I think from our point of view, what we want to do is to build on our consistency, build on our performance from last week, work on the areas that didn't go so well, take 1 quarter at a time, never mind 1 game at a time, and start well, and then build on that through the course of the game, right the way through to the final 80th minute of this game, and then we'll move on then to South Africa, which is another challenge, and then obviously New Zealand, which is another challenge after that. But there's plenty to focus on our minds this weekend, I can assure you.
OK, well, thank you very much for sparing us the time this afternoon. Good luck at the weekend.
No problem. Thank you.
England coach Stuart Lancaster talking there ahead of England's big crunch game against Australia, the old enemy, at Twickenham tomorrow morning, amongst a host of other international fixtures. South Africa in action, New Zealand in action against Italy, Wales back in action looking to overturn their defeat to Argentina against Samoa. So rugby fans, lots of action there for you tomorrow. We've got one more commercial break that we need to get through, and we'll see you the other side of that.
It's the Friday Sports Bar with Dom Ordworth on Talk Radio Europe.
Well, welcome back to the last part of the show. I'm just having a little look here. A bit of breaking news for you. Sebastian Vettel is currently quickest in the first free practice at the new Circuit of the Americas. Sebastian Vettel there. Lewis Hamilton on the pace there as well. Nico Rosberg going very well there as well. But only free practice, so the driver's just getting used to the circuit. Just for the last 5 minutes, I'll take you through some other little bits of pieces of sport that have been taking place around the world. And Vladimir Klitschko demolished Marius Vach to retain his collection of heavyweight titles in Hamburg. On Saturday night, the WBO, IBF, IBO and WBA champion won on the scorecards of 120 to 107 on two cards, 119 to 109 on the third. A comprehensive for the Ukrainian champion. I actually happened to watch that fight. First time he's fought somebody that's actually bigger than him in his whole career. But Klitschko, bearing in mind, hadn't been beaten since 2004. And I've got to tell you, he gave Vach a real big hiding in the ring. How he managed to survive 12 rounds, I'm not too sure about that. Vach was previously undefeated coming into this fight, but he just simply couldn't stand with the power and the technique of the younger Vladimir Klitschko. Simply looks unbeatable at the moment. His record has now improved to 59 and only three losses. The last of those, as already mentioned, coming as far back as 2004. 51 knockouts in that as well. That's a rather impressive set of statistics there from one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, I've got to say. And I think if he was in a different generation, he would probably be able to mix it with the likes of Lewis, I think, quite comfortably, and some of the other great heavyweights from the past. The tennis season has now come to an end officially. The ATP Tour tennis season. It was a season-ending showpiece at the O2 Arena, the World Tour Finals. The final was between Novak Djokovic and Roger Federer. The sponsors would have been very happy with that, considering that they were the number 1 and the number 2 seeds and the best two players in the 2012 Canada year, without a question of that. Roger Federer was gunning for his seventh title there, having qualified on 11 occasions. It was a real exhibition of excellence, there's no question about it. And Djokovic was in the final courtesy of a 3-sets win over Juan Martín del Potro. Federer was there for straight sets win against Andy Murray. Djokovic having won 6 titles now this year, to Federer's 6 as well. But the final result went in the favour of the Serbian, which was quite fitting considering he started the season with an Australian Open victory and finished it with a World Tour final in another very successful season for the world number 1, winning 7-6, 7-5 in probably one of the best matches of tennis I've seen this year. And just to give you an idea on how close that match was, Djokovic won 96 points to Roger Federer's 95. So despite the 2 sets to love victory, that's actually how close the match between the two were. And if you're thinking about great finals from this year, you're thinking about Andy Murray versus Novak Djokovic in the US Open final, and Rafael Nadal against Novak Djokovic in the final of the Australian Open. And you can certainly chuck that Monday's night's final in the mix as well. No question about that. We've got about a minute and a half to go. Just some athletics news to give you. And the Oscars for the athletics will take place on the 24th of November in Barcelona as part of the IAAF's centenary celebrations. The shortlists have been announced. Jess Ennis is there. Alison Felix from the US. Valerie Adams, the New Zealand shot putter. Those are the ladies which are up for Athlete of the Year for the female side. Usain Bolt, Aris Merritt, and David Rashida from Kenya. They're the men that are up for grabs. Of course, Rashida winning gold and breaking the world record in the 800 metres. Aris Merritt winning gold in the 110 hurdles, and a week later breaking the world record. And Usain Bolt, say no more about him. The decision will be made on the 24th. It's the Oscars for the athletes, and a high-quality field there looking to lift the female and male athlete of the year. Rory McIlroy's had a pretty good year himself. He topped the money list on both sides of the Atlantic when he got 3rd place at the Singapore Open last week, repeating the feat that Luke Donald achieved last year, winning the money list in America and the European Tour. So many congratulations there for Rory McIlroy. Not all going his way this weekend. The defending champion of the Hong Kong Open didn't unfortunately make the cut. And very briefly, with the first test in India, England look in all sorts of trouble at this stage. They'll be lucky to survive a draw. India are in complete control going into the second day. That's about all we have time for. Thank you for tuning in. Tune in next week. Ricky Hatton will be joining me on my show, and also Torrey Smith, the Baltimore Ravens running back, NFL star, Baltimore Ravens, top of the AFC North, will be talking to me as well. Have a great sporting weekend.
Radio Europe on the hour, live.